Alaves 4-0 in the first pre-season game, at least what we've got to watch anyway. And it was a very positive performance. I don't think there's anything to really complain about. I think, obviously, it was a back four, which everyone kind of expected. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from this, because you obviously can't read too much into pre-season, but obviously there's been a lot of doom and gloom, rightly so, with the lack of signings and stuff. But I think it just reminded me that although we finished last season badly because of the Kilman injury and the Semedo injury and Neves injury and whatever, this still is a good squad. And of course we need new signings. I'm not denying that. But this was just a reminder that with the right coaching, with the right setup, and if we get a bit lucky with injuries, this isn't, people keep speaking about on Twitter about relegation stuff. This squad here is still very good. It's not as bad as people make out it is on Twitter sometimes. And there's a lot to get excited about if it clicks. And it did click today. And it was interesting seeing a 4-3-3. I didn't think we'd play a 4-3-3. And I didn't really know how the midfield would work. I didn't really know if it would be Dendoncker or Neves that played deeper, just because I've never really been a big fan of Dendoncker or Moutinho going forward. But it actually worked out. It was interesting as well that Bruno just completely ditched this inverted winger thing. I thought Gibbs White would be on the left, to be honest, just because of how obsessed Bruno was with having a left foot on the right and a right foot on the left. But it appears like he's just completely ditched that, which I don't really have an issue with. But obviously there's still, issues. It wasn't, I'm not saying it was like the most perfect performance. You could tell Bruno was getting a bit annoyed in that first half. Him and Aït-Nouri were having words quite a couple of times. He kept telling them to push up. And look, old habits die hard. That five at the back isn't just going to go away out of these players' minds. But I don't think there was any real obvious weak performances. I thought Conor Cody looked better in a back four than I expected him to. I thought Johnny had a really good game on the right. I thought Moutinho looked great. Moutinho was probably the pick of the players for me. And obviously Morgan Gibbs White had a quiet first 10 minutes, but apart from that, looked really solid. Raul Jimenez's hold-up was better than it was before. And obviously Pedro Neto looks back to his best. And look, obviously Wolves need a new striker. That's pretty obvious. But I think Raul Jimenez deserves a chance in those first 5 Premier League games to, in a 4, where he's got more creative guys around him and a better attacking system. He does deserve a shot. He's earned that, given what he's given to the club. Obviously Wolves need a new striker, but I don't think there's a rush. Jimenez is good enough to play against Leeds and Fulham. You know what I mean? But overall, it's just a really positive performance. Obviously, the first goal was a penalty, good run by Pedro Neto down the left, blatant penalty. It was a beautiful ball from Ruben Neves, who I thought actually had a pretty bad game. He gave the ball away 6 or 7 times. Same with Ray and Aït-Nouri, by the way. They were both weird. They both gave the ball away so much, but it was a beautiful ball from Neves. And for me, the amount of times I always hear people say, oh, we should play Ruben Neves further forward or whatever. I've had this argument with people on Twitter so many times. Ruben Neves is a defensive midfielder. I don't care what anyone says. People kept trying to argue with me about João Palhinha. Ruben Neves is a defensive midfielder. He is. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, he played that beautiful ball. But the reason he plays those balls is because of how deep he is and no one marks him. If Ruben Neves is here, he's getting marked and he can't play those balls. You know what I mean? But Ruben Neves, as a single DM, I think it's enough. But as good as Moutinho was, I thought Dendoncker was actually good. I slag him off a lot, but he was good. But Wolves still need a central midfielder, especially if we're going to play a 4-3-3. Obviously, we play more of a 4-2-3-1 in the second half, which worked equally well when Daniel Podence came on. But ultimately, the squad's there. There's a decent enough squad there. There's a decent enough core. Like a core 17 or 18 players. But they need 2 or 3 more, especially in midfield and up front. But I don't think there was any real negatives. I thought, also, it's nice to see Collins come in. It was interesting to see Bolly and Cody as the starting choice. I didn't really have an issue with it. I thought Cody did fine. I thought Bolly did fine. I think people forget that how young Nathan Collins is. This is a guy that's the same age as Gerson Mosquera. That he's the same age as Gerson Mosquera, and we all kind of consider him an under-21 player. He's younger than Kilman. He's younger than Totti Gomez. People need to wait with Collins. He's not just going to walk into this 11. For me, Cody and Kilman will start against Leeds, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, by the way, people slag me off for my opinions on Adama Traore, but even Max Kilman can go on a 70-yard run and finish. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's just me being bitter about Adama Traore. I can't remember what the third goal was. Oh yeah, the Johnny Cross for Podence. And look, Deportivo Alaves weren't great. We'll learn more in the Sporting game, maybe even the Levante game as well. But overall, positive start. It's a nice. I assume we're going to stick with the 4. I'd be stunned if we switched to a back 5 again, like we did last season. Positives there. The fullbacks were both good. Neves was good. It's nice to see Gibbs White and Neto on the wings looking good, but there's still stuff he needs to work on, and we need signings. But overall, good core. I think it reinforced that the score's better than people give it credit for. But yeah, enjoy the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and yeah, peace.